so my question more so relates to, and this was when you were on Brother Elliott's Time for an Awakening show last week. I called in, I asked you the same question, and it was more so about the brother minister after his appearance on MSNBC. My concern and the critique that I gave was I felt that, his affiliation with Cobra was, weaponized against the legitimate, gripes that have been captured by ADOS. So more so, I was saying, do you have concerns that both the Democratic Party during the election process and media outlets will attempt to use Cobra to silence legitimate gripes of our people?
Let me weigh. Can I weigh in on this? Because let me weigh in on this. We're approaching this particular current phenomenon in presidential candidates and the relationship to the issue of reparations as if it's a new phenomenon. That's number one. So in 1972 in Gary, Indiana, at the National Black Political Convention, the Republic of New Africa, under the leadership of one of the founders of Cobra, Dr. Imari Obadele, and Queen Mother Moore, infused into the convention of 10,000 participants from all over the country. The point I'm making is that this is not a new idea, but because of social media, the idea has been manipulated as if it's a new phenomenon. So I think it's a tactical error for us to listen to what I'm saying, for us to get hung up about what presidential candidates are saying. The idea is to build a mass movement to consolidate the demand, to have unity among the Black liberation movement and other forces in the United States to force the issue of reparation to finally be accepted in legislative and political legal forms. And that's where maybe Cam and Mazariki can speak to, because I think that this whole idea of responding to Mark Thompson, who was one of my godsons, who was on MSNBC and all of that, is an error. What we need to be focusing in on is urging the masses of our people to show up in Detroit at the 31st annual convention of the National Black United Front that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is supporting. And Cam and I met with him last week, and we all know that the Nation of Islam, rolling out under the Elijah Muhammad, put into its program in Muhammad's speech the demand for reparations. So there's a lot of historical work that we need to do so we can perhaps address historical discontinuity that's taking place through the internet, social media, and Twitter by a lot of people who have not done any studying. This issue of reparation means repair for the damages inflicted on captured Africans who were enslaved in this country, in the Western Hemisphere, on the continent of Africa, throughout Europe. There's a worldwide African reparation movement. And what has happened recently is some hijacking of that history and those relationships.
In other words, put some respect on his name, yeah? That's coming from your OGs right there. For all these young people listening, that's your OG. That's a general talking. That's a real soldier that's been on the front lines talking. That's general talk. He said he studied, man. He been putting in this work. He went back to 72 on him. Come on, man. What are you talking about? He put respect on these elders' names. He's going back to 72 and giving you knowledge, history, and understanding of your culture and the fight and struggle that's been going on. Go back and study what he said. Press rewind on that. That's a general talking. So respect the general, private soldier.
Well, after I've done what I've done, I can get off the air. Because what needs to happen, I can get off the conversation. Cam and Mazariki need to explain in Cobra's program, because Cobra has a program of full repair, and Cobra has been very instrumental in revising HR 40, and that's where we need to go. All roads lead to Detroit in June.
Okay, so we're remiss not to acknowledge that. You mentioned that the year 2000 was the last time we saw a very significant push for reparations at the national level. But within the
no, I didn't say that.
Okay,
I didn't say that.
What did you say about the year 2000?
No, what? No. See, we were talking about the presidential candidates, and now it's on their lips. And what I'm saying, it's on their lips because there's been a movement that's protracted that forced the environment, so it's on their lips. Now that's done. Now let's get back to our work. What I'm saying is the idea of presidential candidates speaking on reparations is not new. The height of the reparations movement for African people in the world occurred when we went to Durban, South Africa in 2001, where the whole world, if you look at the New York Times, Washington Post, Newsweek Times, and major media outlets that dominated the news from the summer of 2001 all the way to 9/11, when we had a setback on the discussion of reparation, in which we've been trying to make a comeback. So we have to put all these things in context, because people have been working on this a long time, and it's not understood. This is not a pop-up issue on social media and Twitter. But brother, in all due respect, I think we're giving too much energy to ADOS. They're not a movement, number one. And I think the conversation needs to turn in to what role has N'COBRA played, what is N'COBRA's program, and what is the organizing strategy rolling out of N'COBRA. Because if we keep doing it, reparation is not a pop-up issue for Twitter and Facebook. It's a different kind of issue. When you're talking about repairing an African people for 400 years, you have to have some knowledge of history and all that's gone on to repair the damages inflicted by that historical process. So yes, technology is very important because it got an old man like me into it, and I intend to intensify my contribution to it. But that is not it can't be applied to Barack Obama running to president of the United States and using that technology. That's just one thing to get a Negro to go vote. Reparation is deeper than getting a Negro to go vote. It's about repairing for damages of a people. So it's much deeper and requires much more sophistication and organizing tactics and strategies, in which technology is just one aspect. So that's why I'm trying to turn the conversation. ADOS is a phenomenon. It's something that just popped up. But N'COBRA has been here since 1988. Let's talk about the work of N'COBRA and try to encourage some of the young people who may not have this history to show up in Detroit in June for the 31st conference. That's where I'd like to see the conversation go. And maybe I need to get off because I'm very, this is my last run on this. I'm an old man.